This is about the professionalization of psychology during Nazi Germany, the Third Reich. A lot of people believe that during the Third Reich, psychology somewhat came to a halt. However, that is untrue. It actually developed as a profession recognized by the state at that time, and the Nazi military used it to their benefit, of course, and unethically, of course. But there still were developments during that time. People such as Alfred Adler fled the country, came over to the United States, and gave lectures abroad. You can read about Adlerian theory another time. But we had people such as Sigmund Freud, who was a father of psychoanalysis, and he was forced out of Germany and ended up in, well, he was forced out of Vienna and ended up in London. And we actually went to visit his house last year in London. So he made a comment, I found it quite humorous. He said, during the Third Reich, as he was forced to leave, "What progress we are making. In the Middle Ages, they would have burned me. Now they are content with burning my books." We come to find out that Nazis didn't just burn books, they burned bodies, so things got progressively worse. However, he was able to get out of Vienna because there were some very prominent people pushing for him to be able to leave the country and not be murdered. I actually have one of his books here, if you can see it, The Interpretation of Dreams. It's the illustrated copy. Good read if you have some time before we leave for the trip. Let's see. During the Third Reich, Hitler had his psychiatrist murdered. We assume. We're not for sure. It was originally determined that he had committed suicide, the psychiatrist, but we somewhat think that Hitler had offed him. No one knows for sure, but there's a lot of research behind that. And his name was Edmund, what was it? Let me find it. Edmund Forster. Yeah, so this is a picture of Edmund Forster. He treated Hitler before World War II, before Hitler came to power. He was in World War I, and he was in combat. Gas was thrown into one of the trenches, and he suffered blindness. And it wasn't true blindness, it was actually a mental blindness. So the psychiatrist worked with Hitler on ridding him of that mental blindness, which took several months. So there were a lot of documents about Hitler's mental health in that psychiatrist's office, which is why we think he was probably murdered, so that those documents could never surface. But Hitler had been treated, and the treatment was successful. He believed in psychology, but he wanted to use it, of course, to his manipulative advantage. So psychology didn't come to a halt during the Nazi regime, but we did do some unethical things. It prompted the professionalization of psychology, and it became an official position. There were schools that were created during that time. One of them was actually specifically, it was designed for the Nazi government, and it's called the German Society for Psychotherapy. There's a German name for it, but I have no idea how to pronounce it. And psychoanalysis took a hit during that time because Hitler deemed it a Jewish science. So it was, they burned a lot of the books in that time. But thankfully we still have those. Okay, so my 5 minutes is already up. That was quick. And I'd love to start a discussion with you guys on Blackboard. Thanks.